This case is almost too senseless and too sad to mention. There are now over 100 cases on my channel, and I am never not disappointed and horrified with human nature. All I can say in comfort is that there are more good people out there than bad. So as you watch my channel, always remember that reassuring fact. Viewer discretion is advised for this educational documentary. Welcome or welcome back to Dark Case Documentaries. I bring you true crime, disturbing stories and other things that you may later regret knowing with regular uploads every week. Join the quickly growing Dark Case family by hitting subscribe now and turning on notifications. Thank you so much to all of my patrons. If your name is on screen right now, then you're a legend. Our love and respect goes out to all those that knew and loved Lily and all those affected by this dark case. Lily Sullivan was born in Pembroke in Wales. She grew up in Llanelli, a small market town in Carmarthenshire. There she lived with her mother, Anna. Lily was an only child, and her mother understandably doted on her. After a tragic 14 miscarriages, Anna had finally given birth to a healthy baby girl. She had all but given up hope until, that is, Lily came along and gave her real purpose to her life. Lily was a beautiful girl, inside and out. However, she couldn't always see that for herself. Growing up, she lacked self-confidence. She was an amazing artist and kind to everyone, but she was shy. This made it hard for her to find where she was meant to fit in high school. However, by her late teens, she had found her place. She had started college and she was truly thriving. Yes, she was quiet, but she was also quick-witted, a wise old head on young shoulders. She wasn't one for following the crowd either, but she had made new friends and was enjoying the independence that college was bringing her. She had just gotten her first tattoo, a spider in the middle of her chest with ivy leaves going over her shoulder. Really coming into her own, she had just started driving lessons and loved her part-time job at a supermarket. Her life was really just beginning. It was 2021 when Lily turned 18. In the UK, this opened up a world of socialising opportunities for her. She now spent her Friday evenings in the local pub, going on to dancing into the early hours of Sunday mornings with her friends in clubs. This was a different world, and for a girl that loved house music, she was now truly in her element. On December the 16th, Lily was heading to a Christmas night at Out, a nightclub formerly known as Paddles in Pembroke. At around 7:30 p.m, mother Anna had dropped Lily and her friend Lara at the Castle pub for pre-drinks. The girls were understandably excited to let their hair down, and everyone was in the festive spirit. Lily's mother drove away from the pub, wondering what stories of shenanigans the pair would come home with. She normally wouldn't have to wait too long. The plan was for Mum Anna to pick up Lily and her friend at the end of the evening, and the friend was then going to come for a sleepover. However, this plan never came to fruition. Lily and her friend stayed at the Castle pub for around an hour, before meeting 5 other friends and then walking to Out. Once inside, they got more drinks, and then took photos by the flower wall. No one could have anticipated that these would be the last photos as a group. The club was packed out. It was the festive season after all. A few hours later, Lara asked Lily if her mum was coming to get them. She wasn't feeling great and didn't want to stay out, but Lily was having a great time. She had met someone whilst in the club, 31-year-old Lewis Haynes, who was also out with his friends for the night. Lewis was a well-known cricket player in the area, one who liked to party and celebrate his wins. Tonight though, he wasn't celebrating celebrating a win. Instead, he'd fought with his girlfriend and was trying to drink it off. And now it seemed that his girlfriend was the last thing on his mind. Throughout the night, Lewis was showing Lily a lot of attention. He was buying her drink after drink and showering her with compliments. His friends had warned them that Lily was only 18, but he ignored them and continued to focus his attention. The pair were spotted kissing in the corner of the club, seemingly in their own little bubble. At around 1 a.m, Lara started to have a panic attack outside of the club. She wasn't sure how it started, but she did have them often, so this was a relatively normal occurrence. Amidst the panic attack, there was a scuffle happening in the background. Lewis's female friend was shouting at him and Lily. She said, "What are you doing? She's only 18. She continued, "You have a girlfriend and a baby at home." And then Lily walked off with Lewis, and that was the last time that Lara ever saw her best friend. At 2:47 a.m, Mother Anna was parked at a nearby garage waiting to pick up Lily and Lara. She phoned Lily and told her to get a move on. Lily told her that she was on her way and would be with her in just a couple of minutes. The phone call then ended abruptly. Mother Anna tried calling back, but there was no answer. This was unusual. Lily never hung up on her mum, but Anna could maybe put this down to just a drop in signal. She was coming from a club after all. Leaving a club is often a pretty hectic scene, if I remember correctly. While Anna was waiting for Lily, she phoned her friend Lara, but she said that Lily was no longer with her, and that she herself was staying with her grandparents. Anna attempted to call her daughter 30 more times, but each time the call went to voicemail. We can only imagine the panic rising within her. At around 3:10 a.m, Anna noticed a man walking by, acting suspiciously. He was shaking his head and then holding his head in his hands. Anna decided to follow the path that he was taking. She was just curious, but soon she lost sight of him. He lost her as he headed down towards a wooded area. Anna had no idea at that moment that the person she had been watching was the very same man who had just murdered her daughter only moments before. She began driving around the local area to search for Lily, but she eventually went home. She lived in hope that her daughter had gone to stay at a friend's house. She did, however, continue to send text messages to Lily's phone, praying that when she did wake up, there would be an apologetic reply and a really good explanation. But, as we know, this sadly would never come. In the early hours of the morning, Lewis Haynes returned to the home he shared with his girlfriend. He was crying hysterically and kept repeating, "Take me to my mum, I need to speak to my mum." On the way there, he confessed to killing someone. He said, "I've strangled somebody, they're in Mill Pond. I've been in Mill Pond." Lewis told his parents how he had met Lily at the nightclub and told them what he had done. Lewis's dad then drove to the pond, where sadly he found Lily. At around 4 a.m. on December the 17th, the police were called to the Mill Pond area after receiving a call from Lewis's dad. He told them that a female body had been found in the water. She was found with her cream-laced top removed. It was found next to her in the water. Her brown leather jacket and her phone were found in the alley nearby. The police and the ambulance service arrived. But despite their resuscitation attempts, Lily was already gone. When police attended Lewis's home, he told them, "I strangled her." He was arrested for murder and taken to the police station. He then frustratingly gave a no-comment police interview, but he later gave a statement. In this statement, he said he had met Lily for the first time on that night. He said that he couldn't recall Lily's age ever being mentioned, but he remembered his friend saying that he had a daughter and a partner at home. He explained that the pair had sat on a wall chatting after they left the club. They had then kissed and Lily had suggested that they go back to his house. He explained that it wasn't possible as he had a girlfriend. He then alleges that Lily said he would tell his girlfriend that he had violated her. He said that he tried to walk away, but she was hitting his back and saying she was going to ruin his life, saying that his daughter would now be ashamed of him. He said he lost it and grabbed Lily's neck and threw her sideways. This caused her to go into Mill Pond. He said he tried to lift her out, but by that time she was a dead weight. He thought that she was now dead, so he went home. Lewis Haynes was charged with Lily Sullivan's death on December the 20th. In May 2022, Lewis Haynes pleaded guilty to manslaughter, and he was due to stand trial for murder on June the 20th. However, he changed his plea to guilty on the charge of murder on the 13th of June. This was due to the overwhelming evidence against him. During his trial, Lewis had admitted to strangling, but insisted that the attack was not carnally motivated. He also stated that he had gone into the pond to try and save Lily. But the prosecution argued differently. There was bruising to Lily's left eye, her cheek, lower jaw, and upper neck. There was reddening near her collarbone. Her left arm was scratched and her right arm was bruised. There was also tiny spots of bleeding under the skin. These were consistent with manual strangulation. He hadn't just grabbed her neck and thrown her into the pond. This was an altogether different kind of attack. And the judge agreed. Before sentencing Lewis, he said, "I'm sure a degree of intimacy occurred in the alley. I'm equally sure it did not progress to sexual intercourse or anything close to it. I'm sure that did not happen as Lily did not want that to happen. There was no indication of distress, but a clear indication she was now coming to meet her mother. That phone call ended abruptly. She did not want the intimacy between her and Lewis Haynes to go as far as intercourse. I am sure from the evidence that Lily did not remove her top voluntarily to be naked in the middle of the night in December. I am sure Mr. Haynes took it off her. His account of her threatening to tell people what he had done with her does, in fact, have an element based in truth. I find she did say she would complain, not that he had actually her because he had not, but because he had tried to force himself upon her against her will. The court heard that Lewis had a great deal to lose because he was in a relationship and he was going through family court proceedings to have access to his child. He felt threatened that Lily could impact the outcome, and so he wanted to silence her. The judge said he throttled Lily to prevent her from telling people that he had tried to get her to go further than she was willing. His intention was to silence her. He didn't want anyone to know what had happened in the alley. The judge then stated, "You brutally murdered Lily Sullivan because you wanted intercourse. You strangled her face to face. She must have been terrified. An 18-year-old girl alone in the dark with a powerful man, entirely at your mercy. And you showed her absolutely none. You were only concerned about your self-preservation." He sentenced Haynes to 23 years before he will be eligible for parole, a sentence that falls short of Lily's mother. Anna called Lewis pure evil. She said that she would never forgive him for what he's done. She stated, "Overwhelmingly, I feel it's all so senseless. It didn't need to happen. What I can't come to terms with is that the man who killed Lily knew I was waiting for her and passed me by the garage. He chose not to help. He did nothing which I can't forgive." Dion Timms Williams grew up in Castle Close, Craigie in Wales, United Kingdom. She lived with her mother and father, who were both described as lovely people. Growing up, people in Dion's life said that she was quiet, friendly and polite. Neighbours who lived near the family said that Dion was sweet. They described her as pretty and said she never caused trouble, saying that she was a joy to be around. She had a good close relationship with her father, who was a mechanic, spending her free time helping him fix up cars. Dion even intended to follow in her father's footsteps as she grew older, planning to become a vehicle mechanic herself after she left high school. By the time she was a teenager, she had hopes of pursuing a successful career in the car industry, hopeful about the future ahead. However, all of this would change. Craigie is a picturesque village in the scenic landscapes of South Wales, with a name that translates to rocks in Welsh. It is a natural beauty that is known for having a sense of tranquility. Surrounded by lush greenery, the village offers a peaceful escape from the hustle and bustle of city life. While embracing its rural charm, Craigie is also within the reach of modern conveniences. Residents can enjoy the balance of the countryside without sacrificing access to essential amenities. With a rich history and a warm community spirit, it is a hidden gem in the Welsh countryside, inviting all who visit an experience of beauty and peace. This is where Dion and her family made their home. As she reached adolescence, Dion's life began to drastically change when her parents decided to get a divorce. After her father left and Dion lived with her mother full-time, she lost the sense of closeness that she once had in a relationship with her father. Neighbours said that Dion began hanging around suspicious characters at school. She also began engaging in drinking and smoking illicit substances. She no longer said hello if she was passing a neighbour on the street, and she seemingly became more and more withdrawn at school and further away from a positive social life. Many didn't know how to react to this drastic change in her life. Her mother decided to seek out mental health care for Dion, trying to get help for feelings of anxiety and anger, a situation where she was believed to have had borderline personality disorder and a history of self-harm. As Dion's mental health continued to decline, by the time she was 16, she was commonly described as a Jekyll and Hyde, with friends and family saying that while some days she was the sweet innocent girl they had remembered, she also became someone completely different when she consumed certain substances. It became obvious to the entire village that Dion had gotten involved with the wrong people and the wrong activities. Oftentimes she would look vacant, and other times she would be completely out of control. Everyone in her life hoped that professional care would help Dion get back to the girl that they once knew, the girl who was sweet, innocent and kind. However, instead, she would go on to escalate her behaviours. She would sadly soon become involved in an incident that she couldn't escape from. Dr. Gary Jenkins was a 54-year-old, well-liked, upstanding citizen who lived alone in Cardiff, Cardiff being just 7 miles away from Craigie. Known as incredibly generous and creative, Gary was a psychiatrist who always had the best intentions. He played music at social events, he enjoyed nature, and he had a true passion for making people's lives better. Despite being divorced, Gary was able to maintain an amicable relationship with his ex-wife. He also kept an extremely loving and close relationship with his 2 daughters. Everyone who knew Gary was affected in a positive way by his uplifting and colourful energy. Despite his many years in service as a psychiatrist, he was planning to begin reducing his hours so he could become a wildlife ranger, finally pursuing his passion for animals and nature. Unfortunately, as he walked through the park on the morning of July the 19th, 2020, this dream of his was made sure to never come true. Gary Jenkins was walking through the familiar Butte Park. He was looking to meet with what he called like-minded men. He had been divorced for 6 years, and in an attempt to get back into the dating world, Gary was seeking out other men for the possibility of forming a romantic connection. As he walked through the park, he encountered 3 individuals, 2 men and 1 woman. The individuals began to approach Gary, walking towards him with an ominous gait. He sensed that they didn't have good intentions and he did his best to avoid them. This proved to be unsuccessful, however, as the group continued to close in on him, with Gary then feeling a sharp pain to his body. He fell to the ground, and immediately he then began enduring endless punches, kicks, and stomps from the three mystery assailants. He cried out in pain as they continued to attack him. Gary yelled out to them, asking why they were doing this to them and begging them to stop. Instead of answering his cries, the three attackers continued to beat him senselessly, with Gary hearing them laugh and call him horrific names as they landed more blows over his entire body. He did his best to block himself from their blows as the assailants said, "Hit him again," over and over. The three then inhumanely pulled down Gary's red-stained trousers, and they continued to physically attack him. As Gary began to lose consciousness, he felt the warmth and heaviness of another body laying on top of his. An heroic stranger who was witnessing the event was attempting to shield Gary from the ruthless blows at the hands of these individuals. Even though this stranger was doing his best to protect Gary's life, he was no match for the mysterious assailants who pulled him off and assaulted him as well. The three figures delighted in their evil deeds as Gary's world went black. He was left lying in the middle of a park, humiliated and relentlessly beaten. When the three sadistic attackers were finished with Gary, they took all of his belongings and left. This left the witness to call for authorities and emergency services. Gary was immediately rushed to hospital where doctors attempted to treat his injuries. He suffered major brain injuries as a result of the blows he sustained, aimed repeatedly at his head during the attack. While Gary was in the hospital attempting to recover, authorities quickly dispatched a team to investigate the seemingly random, brutal beating. Luckily, CCTV footage with views of the park were quickly recovered. Police spent the following week combing through every second surrounding the attack. It was during this week that police recovered footage of the three assailants, the people who had approached Jenkins in the park that night. The only thing left to do was to identify these individuals. Again, it didn't take much longer for the police to identify who they were. They were 25-year-old Jason Edwards, 36-year-old Lee Strickland, and 16-year-old Dion Timms Williams. Shocked by these findings, police immediately arrested Dion, bringing her to the station for questioning. Following her arrest, Dion proved to be a closed book devoid of any emotions. She remained quiet during the entire process. She refused to answer any questions and she bit her lip. She even showed an eerie smirk in her mugshot.
In this, in the storyboard that we've got, there's several photos of you, and as you accept in your statement, you are a female one. Where are the clothes that you were wearing that night?
No comment.
Okay. So I think when you're first seen on the cam, you've got like a jacket on, possibly either black socks or black tights with black at the bottom. They look like Vans trainers. Can you tell me where we can find those clothes?
No comment.
Where's the Nike bag that you had with you on that night? Is there any reason that you can't or won't tell me where those clothes in that bag are?
No comment.
However, police weren't too concerned about her silence. Amazingly, they had CCTV footage which showed every second of the attack, which was mindlessly carried out against Gary Jenkins. Although it would have been helpful to hear his side of the story, officers didn't need his words. After police released her to continue gathering evidence on August 5th, 2020, Gary Jenkins sadly succumbed to his brain injuries, the injuries caused by these three assailants. This turned the investigation from attempted homicide into a homicide investigation. Shortly after, Dion sent a prepared statement to the police station. This was an attempt at explaining her side of the story. According to her, she had only participated in the events because of the immense fear that she felt from the other two individuals. She reported how she had been walking through the park, when suddenly she had seen the men punching and kicking Gary Jenkins. The two men then asked Dion to join in, causing her to be in fear for her life and participating in the event to avoid physical consequences at their hands. However, the police weren't buying this story, and I'm not sure I do either. They had CCTV footage which showed Dion's every move from the beginning of that night, and the details were truly chilling. This footage began with Dion walking through a Cardiff street on the night in question. She then came into contact with Jason Edwards and Lee Strickland, two apparent strangers who had simply offered her a cider as they sat on a bench. After spending some time in conversation, the footage then caught Dion saying the words, "If we're staying in Butte Park, can we at least go and steal?" It was from this moment that the trio had planned to rob someone in that park. And just minutes later, CCTV footage caught the moment that the trio decided to prey on Gary Jenkins as he walked through the park. Butte Park was well known as an area where gay men, some closeted, would go to meet, and the trio wanted to target someone who would be less likely to report their crimes. Security cameras recorded every second of the attack. It showed Dion laughing. She was confident and full of glee with what she was doing. Following the brutal attack, Dion can be heard saying the chilling words, "I needed that." As the group of assailants looted his body, Dion was shown laughing once more. She was hugging and kissing Jason Edwards as they celebrated their successful attack. After this, Edwards and Strickland went to buy alcohol with Gary Jenkins' credit card, and then Williams went to stay with a friend. Police now had cold hard proof that Dion's innocent story of being in fear for her life was a complete lie. The three were promptly arrested and charged with the brutal, ruthless homicide of the beloved Dr. Gary Jenkins.
Foster and Ford Lincoln.
Lee, what's your date of birth, mate?
11/6/85.
11/6/85.
Yes.
Knowing that there was no way they could argue their innocence anymore, all three pled guilty to manslaughter, along with robbery, which resulted in intentional bodily harm. During the sentencing trial, the court heard from the witness who had attempted to save Gary's life. He reported seeing Dion confidently laughing, with all three of them thoroughly enjoying the torture that they were putting Gary through. On the opposite end, Dion's defense team tried to argue for a lighter sentence. They cited her mental health history and vulnerability to exploitation due to historical trauma. Additionally, Dion's defense team also tried to argue that the crime was not motivated by Gary's orientation, saying that Dion herself had been in a relationship with another female. Ultimately, though, the judge aggressively disagreed with these claims, saying that the crime was motivated by greed and sheer hate. Judge Daniel Williams ruled that all three individuals were equally responsible for the crime, although Dion's participation was most unsettling. He sentenced Dion Timms Williams to a minimum of 17 years in prison, before then being eligible for parole due to her minor status. He handed out harsher sentences to the other two. They both received a minimum of 33 years in prison. The judge stated during his sentencing that all of those who knew and loved Gary Jenkins would be left with a void in their lives that would never be filled. After all, this was a father.
The attack upon Dr. Jenkins by these three defendants was cowardly and senseless in the extreme. The degree and duration of unnecessary violence inflicted upon him, together with homophobic abuse, all captured on audio, was both sickening and staggering.
His family said today, Gary was such a kind soul who would never hurt anyone. He was an incredibly generous and creative man who had only good intentions. Gary was one of the most humane, kind, compassionate doctors one could ever come across.
The trio showed no reaction as they were led to their cells with their new sentences. Dion will first serve her sentence in a Young Offenders Institute before being moved to an adult prison after she turns 18. Naomi Irion had a unique upbringing. growing up in sheltered communities in Russia, Germany, and South Africa. This was primarily due to her father's State Department job, which required the family to move frequently. However, in 2001, Naomi's life took a new turn. She moved to the United States with her brother, Casey. The prospect of living in a country somewhat known for its freedom and its opportunities must have been an exhilarating prospect for Naomi. One of the things Naomi eagerly looked forward to was learning how to drive. In the countries she had previously lived in, transportation was often limited to public options. Therefore, she had always dreamt of having the independence to drive her own car. She couldn't wait to pass her driving test and hit the open roads, exploring her new home's vast landscapes and cities. The USA is the home of the road trip. Another aspect of life in the United States that excited Naomi was the opportunity to get a job. Naomi was eager to take on a job and become financially independent. As well as this, dating was another aspect of American life that intrigued Naomi. In the sheltered communities that she grew up in, dating was not as common or as openly discussed. However, in the United States, she saw the opportunity to meet new people, to form new connections, and to experience the joy and excitement of romantic relationships. Lastly, Naomi was thrilled to have the opportunity to attend community college. In her previous countries of residence, the educational options were somewhat limited, and attending college to her was often a distant dream. However, in the US, she saw the chance to pursue her academic interests, to expand her knowledge and work towards her career goals. After moving to the States, she chose to settle in Fernley, Nevada. This is located around a 6-hour drive from Las Vegas. Fernley is renowned for being a safe area, a fact that brought great relief to Naomi's family, knowing that she would be living in a secure place. Shortly after her relocation, Naomi received an offer to work at a Panasonic factory in Reno. This opportunity filled her with excitement. She could finally realize her much anticipated dreams to build a new life in her adopted country. Every day to get to her job at the Panasonic factory, Naomi would drive her car to the nearby Walmart parking lot and then take a shuttle bus to work. Naomi's new job at the Panasonic factory took an unfortunate turn, however. She sadly encountered harassment at work. Realizing the importance of addressing this issue, Naomi decided to bring the matter up to her superiors. By doing so, she made a courageous step towards resolution and, in a small way, justice. Upon receiving Naomi's report, her superiors addressed the complaint internally. But despite this harassment at work, Naomi still tried to live out her American dream. On Saturday, March the 12th, she drove her car to Walmart to wait for the shuttle bus to take her to work. However, Naomi never showed up for work on that day, something which was very much unlike her. When she didn't return home later that night, her family knew something was very, very wrong. The family made numerous attempts to reach out to her, trying to establish contact through text messages and through phone calls. However, all of their efforts went unanswered. Concerned about Naomi's well-being, her family decided to involve the police. The authorities initiated their investigation by visiting the Walmart parking lot. This was the last known location where Naomi had been seen. They were determined to gather any evidence that could shed a light on her whereabouts. And in their pursuit of Naomi, the police obtained security camera footage from the Walmart premises, all in the hopes it could provide a crucial lead or an explanation. Police carefully examined the footage captured in the Walmart parking lot, and what they witnessed left them deeply disturbed. The video depicted a man emerging from a nearby homeless encampment. He was skulking around various vehicles. Eventually, he approached Naomi's car. He forcefully coerced her into the passenger seat before taking the driver's seat for himself. This distressing scene left no doubt in the minds of her family. Their precious Naomi had been kidnapped. On the Tuesday following Naomi's disappearance, authorities made a significant discovery. Her vehicle was found abandoned in an industrial area in Fernley. Crime scene investigators swiftly arrived and commenced a thorough search of her car. However, they kept the details of their findings away from the media's prying eyes. Whilst they remained tight-lipped about the specifics, authorities did disclose that they uncovered evidence within Naomi's car, evidence that raised suspicions about her sudden disappearance. As the search continued, the Urian family turned to social media in a desperate attempt to find her. Sister Tamara took to TikTok to address her sister's sudden disappearance and abduction. In a heartfelt video, Tamara pleaded with viewers to share the video and to help spread awareness about Naomi's situation.
She was just starting. She's just starting her adult life.
The family's hopes pretty much rested on the power of social media. Social media has a unique way of reaching as many people as possible, and hopefully this could lead to any information about Naomi's whereabouts. Naomi's brother also had a message for the person responsible for kidnapping their sister. With a stern tone, he declared, "We're onto you." According to Casey, Naomi's older brother, whom she lived with, she went on a date in Reno the night before her disappearance. During the date, they visited thrift stores together. Casey mentioned that Naomi appeared in good spirits when she returned home. He stated, "I'm not sure if they had been out before. I saw her afterwards. I have no reason to believe that this person was involved." Naomi's parents, Hervey and Diana, who were living in South Africa, decided to fly to Nevada to assist with the search for their missing daughter. Diana was understandably devastated when she received the news that her daughter had disappeared. The emotional pain she experienced was overwhelming. She said it was as if her heart had exploded with anguish. It felt like the world was crashing down around them at that moment, and she feared she may not survive the ordeal. The severity of Diana's emotional distress was evident to those around her. This prompted the embassy to take action. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, they sent a doctor to accompany her during her journey to the United States from South Africa. This decision was made because Diana was in such a state of shock that she required immediate medical attention and support.
No piece of information is too small to report. At this point, we need everyone's help across the nation because the incident happened so close to I-80. She could be anywhere.
According to a report by Business Insider, Casey, Naomi's brother, stated that her disappearance was particularly devastating for the family. He said that Naomi was considered their miracle baby. It was revealed that Naomi was conceived shortly after Diana, her mother, had experienced a tragic lost pregnancy. During the final stages of Diana's pregnancy with Naomi, doctors informed her that there was a high probability of Naomi's life being at risk. This was said to be due to a lack of amniotic fluids. However, Naomi, against all odds, survived. Casey said that it was a miracle that saved her life as a baby, and it was a miracle they needed to save her now. The police informed the public that the person that they believed had abducted Naomi was seen driving a dark, newer model Chevrolet Silverado high country truck. This information was shared in an effort to gather any leads or information that may assist in locating Naomi. Law enforcement agencies actively conducted searches on the ground and by air to find her. People came out to look for her on ATVs and on horseback. In a significant development, the FBI made an announcement regarding the case. They declared that they would be offering a reward of up to $10,000 to anyone who provided information leading to Naomi's whereabouts. On March the 25th, the police officers investigating Naomi's disappearance announced that they had now made an arrest. The suspect taken into custody was identified as 41-year-old Troy Driver. In addition to apprehending the suspect, the officers also impounded his truck in order to search for any potential evidence related to this case. Despite having a suspect in custody, the whereabouts of Naomi remained unknown, so the investigation continued in the hope of bringing her back safely. Casey, Naomi's brother, told the media, "What's going through my mind right now is that there's a potential suspect. and it seems like it might be one more step towards finding Naomi. I'm very optimistic. Searches continued even after Troy Driver was arrested for kidnapping. However, despite the intensified efforts, no sign of the missing teenager could be found. As the days passed, her family's worry grew increasingly more profound. Nobody had still heard any word from Naomi. They believed if she could, she would have been in touch. Despite Troy Driver's arrest, the investigation did not come to a halt. Law enforcement agencies, volunteers and citizens tirelessly combed through every possible lead and followed any potential clue, hoping for that one breakthrough that would shed light onto Naomi's whereabouts. However, the relentless search yielded no results. On March the 29th, a tip regarding Naomi led the police to a remote part of the neighbouring town of Churchill County. Tragically, at the scene, they discovered a gravesite and recovered a woman's body. Subsequent DNA tests confirmed that the body belonged to Naomi. As a result, her death was automatically classified as a homicide. Mother Diana expressed that learning about her daughter's demise was the most devastating experience she had ever faced. The unimaginable pain and sorrow that engulfed her upon receiving this tragic news was beyond anything she had ever encountered. As a mother, Diana had always cherished and protected her daughter, hoping to shield her from harm. However, this harsh reality shattered her dreams and left her heartbroken. Sister Tamara shared her anguish and struggle since her sister went missing. She admitted that deep down, she had been preparing herself for the possibility that Naomi may never return home. The constant fear and uncertainty consumed her thoughts, making it impossible for her to find any solace. Tamara confessed that she had shed endless tears, unable to escape the horrifying images that haunted her mind. She was stuck envisioning the worst possible fate for her beloved sister. After Naomi's body was discovered, the police decided to bring additional charges against Troy Driver, the man that was already suspected of kidnapping Naomi. These new charges included murder with the use of a deadly weapon, robbery, burglary, destruction of property, and assault. Due to the severity of these charges, Troy Driver was deemed a significant threat to society. He was subsequently held in custody at the Lyon County Jail. Driver pleaded not guilty in court. However, as he was awaiting trial for Naomi's murder, he ended his own time on this earth whilst in custody in August of 2023. Prison officials revealed that Troy had made 2 previous attempts before finally succeeding on August the 6th. Before his initial attempt, Troy handed a confession letter to his ex-girlfriend. In this letter, he expressed that the guilt was crushing. His ex-girlfriend wasted no time in delivering the letter to law enforcement. During a press conference after Troy Driver's death, the police made a shocking revelation. They announced that Troy's DNA was discovered on Naomi's body, leaving no doubt in their minds about his guilt. According to officials, Troy had a troubling criminal history, a history that began at a very young age, and it involved acts of animal cruelty. Furthermore, it was revealed that Troy had a deep fascination with serial killers. He was known to immerse himself in true crime, constantly listening to podcasts and avidly reading books about notorious murderers. Naomi's family has explicitly expressed their desire for her murderer not to gain fame or notoriety. Instead, they hope people will remember Naomi for the legacy of love that she left behind in this tragic case. Naomi was a remarkable young woman known for her kind and loving nature. She was still at the beginning of her life, a life that began quite miraculously. She was full of aspirations and dreams just waiting to be fulfilled. The potential she possessed was seemingly limitless. Amidst the grief and heartache, it is essential to honour Naomi's memory by focusing on her loving spirit and remembering the impact she had on others. Her family wished for her legacy to be one of compassion and kindness, and the importance of cherishing every moment of life. By taking the time to discuss those that we love and have lost, we can ensure that their spirits live on, inspiring others to embrace their same virtues. Eliza Fletcher was born November the 9th in 1987 to Beasley and Adele Welford in Memphis, Tennessee. Luckily for her, she grew up more privileged than most. Her grandfather, Joe O'Grill III, founded a wholesale hardware business with an annual income of over $3 billion. That sort of financial backing allowed Eliza to pursue her passions freely. She loved exercise, fitness, as well as children, and all of these combined would eventually turn that love into a career. She graduated from Hutchinson School in Memphis in 2006 and went to Baylor University, earning a bachelor's degree in exercise and sports science. Eliza later earned a Master of Arts from Belmont University for elementary education. After graduation, Eliza began her career teaching kindergarten based at Promise Academy in Nashville, where she also coached soccer. In 2021, she moved to Mary's Episcopal School in Memphis. Running was a huge part of Eliza's life. In fact, you could probably say she was obsessed with it. She ran early in the morning nearly every day of the week, and she didn't take breaks even on vacation. After she met her soon-to-be husband, Richard Fletcher, she would also go running with him. Eliza and Richard were active members of the Second Presbyterian Church, and according to their pastor, George Robinson, he called their zest for running and athletics an inspiration for all, and at that very church they were wed on March the 8th, 2014. After getting married, the newlywed couple had 2 children. In 2019, Eliza put her lifelong dedication to running to the test. She finally participated in the St. Jude's Marathon. She finished with a time of 3 hours 26 minutes and 9 seconds, marking her the 22nd fastest woman and earning her a spot in the Boston Marathon. Memphis, home of blues music and the birthplace of rock and roll, is the second largest city in Tennessee and one of the best places to live in America. It has an incredible music scene, amazing food, a few top-rated universities, and a blossoming job market. It is home to over 600,000 diverse people from various cultural backgrounds. But the city does have its faults. Chief among them is its high crime rate. In fact, it has the highest crime rate of any city in America. There is a shocking 1 in 40 chance that you can become a victim of a violent crime, and that really sets the scene for this case. On Friday, September 2nd, 2022, Eliza left her house for a run at around 4:20 a.m. She left for her early morning jog that she went on almost every day. It started at Central Avenue and Belvedere Street, before cutting down to Zach Curlin Street and back towards Belvedere. It was an 8.2-mile path, and she was just around the intersection of Central Avenue and Zach Curlin Street on the University of Memphis campus when something strange happened. Over the years, Eliza must have taken this path hundreds of times, and she was extremely athletic too, so she wasn't particularly worried about defending herself. But Eliza hadn't counted on a GMC Terrain following her, nor on the unstable man inside the car. Shortly after Eliza began her run, a driver in a black 2000C Terrain seemed to take notice of her. She was a solitary jogger in the early hours of the day, but she was on the university campus. For a predator on the prowl, she appeared to be the perfect mark, so the man followed for a while and simply watched. Eliza held a steady pace, and the man, bored of watching, eventually sped past her and waited up ahead. He was preparing to carry out his dastardly plan. When Eliza came up to the car, the driver jumped her. He grabbed Eliza and tried forcing her into the passenger seat, but Eliza had experience in defending herself. She fought back, so much so that the assailant left his sandals and her phone at the scene, after he eventually managed to force her into the passenger seat of the car. Even after he managed to get Eliza into the car, his struggles would not end there. They fought inside the vehicle for 4 more minutes before he could manage to drive away. The exact play-by-play of what happened next is still unclear. but what we do know is that the next few hours were a battle for her life. At 6:45 a.m, a man saw Eliza's cell phone on the ground. This was still near to where she disappeared. It was nearby to some Champion sandals. This footwear belonged to the assailant. Upon a casual inspection, the man who was on a bicycle could determine who she was and returned her things to her family, and the family were beyond distraught.
Throughout Monday afternoon, we watched as ATVs made their way through a wooded area off Prospect Street in South Memphis. Industrial buildings back up to a green space in Cane Creek. It's unclear how long investigators spent at that spot or what exactly they were looking for. But it is clear they've devoted resources to their efforts. Efforts as the city of Memphis and now the nation hopes for the safe return of mother and teacher Eliza Fletcher.
Her husband Richard called the police 3 hours after she disappeared for her jog. He knew his wife very well. She was unlikely to still be out exercising. And Richard was right. The police began an investigation even before the evidence arrived at the station. Eliza's husband was initially the prime suspect. Whilst the police saw no immediate motive, most kidnappings and murders are committed by a spouse or someone close to the victim. Officers then did their due diligence. This included towing away her car to be further examined and storming their family home for anything that could lead to Eliza's discovery. Eliza was not just another missing woman in Tennessee. She was the granddaughter of an extremely rich mogul. Rightly or wrongly, if you come from money, the police just seem to care more.
My name is Mike Keeney, and I am the uncle of Liza Fletcher. On behalf of Liza's family, her husband Richie, her children, her mom Adele, her father Beasley, her brother Gil, and all the members of her family, we want to make a brief statement. We want to start by thanking everyone for their prayers and outpouring of support. Liza has touched the hearts of many people, and it shows. We want to thank the Memphis Police Department, Shelby County Sheriff Department, TBI, FBI, and all of the other law enforcement agencies who are working tirelessly to find Liza. The family has met with police, and we have shared with them all the information we know. More than anything, we want to see Liza returned home safely. The family has offered a reward for any information that leads to her safe return. We believe someone knows what happened and can help. If you have any information on this crime or Liza's location, call the police at 901-545-COPS or call Crime Stoppers at 901-528-CASH. Thank you.
Time was of the essence and the perpetrator had to be located immediately. The answers the police were looking for could be found in the Champion sandals the assailant left behind during his struggle with Eliza. DNA evidence extracted from the footwear pointed to Cleotha Abston Henderson, a career criminal who just finished a 20-year stretch for kidnapping. Things did not look good. His criminal career all started in June of 1995 when he was just 11 years old. He was charged with the theft of items under $500. In October of 1995, he attempted burglary. In October of 1996, he stole again. And in 1997, he was arrested for theft, for aggravated assault, evading arrest, and violation of curfew. He also had a truancy charge in November that year, and in May 1998, he was arrested for the possession of illicit substances and paraphernalia. By June, he caught his first intimate assault charge. And in December of 1999, he was arrested for theft and would enjoy a repeat of that charge in April of 1999. He was arrested for another charge of theft. From this point on, Cleotha's behaviour only got worse. Later, he was caught trespassing, and then he was charged with another theft. He was arrested for 4 counts of aggravated assault and for evading arrest once again. It was quite the miracle that it took this long for Cleotha to be put behind bars. He was a multiple repeat offender. However, his luck would eventually run out after his stunt with David Kemper. He kidnapped David Kemper in 2000 and tried to drain his bank account at a local ATM. Kemper testified that had a security officer not come along, Cleotha would have killed him. At that time, he was only 16 years old, but already because of his history and the severity of his crimes, he was sentenced to a harsh 20 years in prison. Yet, as problematic as Cleotha's story is, He would try almost the exact same thing again upon his release. In 2021, Henderson was indicted for the kidnapping and intimate assault of Alicia Franklin. She was a young woman that he met through a dating app.
Not a day goes by that I didn't think about this.
Alicia alleging Henderson attacked her almost a full year before Eliza went missing, but the DNA results from her assault kit linking Henderson to her case were not reported until after Eliza disappeared, a delay she believes allowed Henderson to remain free.
They had more than enough evidence that night when they interviewed me to get him off the streets, but they didn't.
Although that case never fully developed, it foreshadowed what was to come. When the police checked the CCTV around the area where Eliza's effects were discovered, they witnessed a shocking kidnapping. Stomachs churned as they viewed the tape. Doing so, they were able to deduce the year, make and model of the car, as well as its license plate. The car was registered to one Gwendolyn Brown, a woman who, when questioned, insisted she was not Cleotha's girlfriend and had nothing to do with this situation, though she refused to clarify the nature of their relationship, even to the police. All that was clear was that she loaned Cleotha the car on the morning that Eliza was murdered. All that was clear was that she loaned Cleotha the car on the morning that Eliza disappeared. But the police didn't need that evidence to build a case against him. Cleotha's DNA and video evidence proved that he was in contact with Eliza and forced her into the vehicle. To better establish his connection with this attack, the police pinged his cell phone and discovered his location on September the 2nd. They found Cleotha and the GMC Terrain he used some distance from his house. He had partially wiped down the car with floor cleaner in an attempt to destroy DNA evidence. He was also washing his clothes in the sink of their home. This was according to his brother, Mario. Cleotha was in his house when the police came knocking. When he tried to run, he was swiftly apprehended. Upon inspection of the car, the police were able to retrieve evidence that Eliza had been seriously hurt inside of the vehicle. They charged Henderson with aggravated assault, theft, and fraudulent use of a credit card, the previous two crimes he'd allegedly committed the day before.
Today is a very sad day in the city of Memphis. First, I'd like to express our sincere condolences to the family, friends, and numerous others who have been impacted by the tragic and heinous kidnapping of Eliza Fletcher. Yesterday evening, September 5th, at approximately 5:07 p.m., the Memphis Police Department and other law enforcement partners discovered the remains of a human body, in the rear of a vacant duplex apartment at the 1600 block of Victor Street. At that time, it was believed the unidentified body could possibly be the remains of kidnapping victim Eliza Fletcher. Further forensic investigation by the MPD traffic unit positively identified the body was, in fact, Eliza Fletcher. Cleotha Abston has been charged by MPD homicide investigators with the following state charges: first-degree murder and perpetration of kidnapping, especially aggravated kidnapping, and tampering with evidence. In addition, Abston has been charged with the following unrelated offenses: identity theft, theft of property, and credit card fraud. While the outcome of this investigation is not what we hoped for, we are nonetheless pleased to remove this dangerous predator off the streets of Memphis.
Eliza's body was sadly found on Monday, September the 5th, 2022. It was around 5:07 p.m. and was found by the Memphis police and other state departments. Her body was near an abandoned duplex. It was concealed by tall grass on Victor Street, South Memphis. A pair of purple Lululemon shorts were recovered from a nearby trash can. They matched those Eliza had been wearing the day before. The duplex was about 1.5 miles away from Cleotha's former residence. Henderson was charged with the first-degree murder of Eliza Fletcher. Eliza's two young children would now be forced to grow up without a mother.
The Collaboration and cooperation amongst all of our partner agencies was nothing less than symphonic.
We were there as teams from the Memphis Police Department, the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, FBI, ATF, and U.S. Marshal's Office fanned out across city over multiple days, trying to find Fletcher, quickly processing evidence, working to get answers in her disappearance.
I had the opportunity to go to the command center over the course of the weekend, and I saw with my own eyes the seamless cooperation among all of them.
This just goes to show that it's one team, one mission. We made.
Eliza likely experienced a leg bruise from her attacker during their initial struggle, before she was subdued enough with fentanyl and later struck with a powerful blow to the head. And then, just like that, Eliza's life was snuffed out. The attacker pulled the trigger on a firearm whilst aimed at Eliza's head.
Let's take a look at the map together. Eliza Fletcher was abducted at 4:20 a.m. in the morning on Friday, September 2nd, from the intersection of Central Avenue and Zach H. Curlin Street near the University of Memphis campus. Her body was located by law enforcement at an abandoned home, which was about 7.5 miles away from where she was abducted, and this is in South Memphis.
As for why Cleotha Rabson Henderson risked his entire life and murdered an unsuspecting jogger, it is quite unclear. A lot of people speculate that Henderson could be seen as delusional, confused, and might be suffering from one of any mental conditions that impaired his judgment. However, questioning found that Cleotha was of sound body and mind. He asked for a public defender shortly after he was arrested, and one was swiftly assigned to him. Although he would eventually get rid of his public defender, Cleotha's case still drummed up a lot of attention. A great deal of people were certain that Eliza's death was some sort of assassination or a ploy by the spouse to inherit Eliza's estate. There was also speculation that Cleotha's attack might have been revenge against the man who put him away. Original victim Kemper, who had just recently passed away, did have distant ties with the Fletcher family. Eliza's uncle worked for Fletcher's former firm, and people think that Cleotha chose Eliza because she was the easiest target to get to. However, 38-year-old Cleotha's criminal record suggests otherwise. He had been having run-ins with the law since his early years, and his crimes only seem to have escalated. Cleotha was working in a soup kitchen, borrowing cars from acquaintances, and was now in a whole new world after spending 20 years in prison. Life was not exactly going great for him. Perhaps Cleotha was desperate for some kind of release, and Eliza just could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. But his actions on the day seemed calculated and premeditated. Cleotha was a career criminal, someone that had evaded punishment for most of his crimes. After seeing Eliza jogging that Friday morning, he saw an opportunity and perhaps suspected he could get away with just one more crime. What he hadn't anticipated though were the CCTV cameras and DNA testing that would give him away before he had the opportunity to cover his crime. Perhaps he didn't realise just how far technology had come during his time in prison. At the time of this video being recorded, Cleotha Rabson Henderson's trial has still not begun. However, jury selection is now underway. At this time, he's been under arrest for over 1 year. His bail is set at $2.2 million, and his trial date keeps being pushed back time and time again, as prosecutors and defenders push from both sides. Cleotha replaced his public defendant with a private attorney, someone who represented several high-profile defendants in Shelby County over the years. Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy has always been a staunch critic of the death penalty, but he has announced that he will pursue it against Cleotha. Factors that allow for the death penalty in the state of Tennessee cover killings that were heinous, atrocious, and cruel, and everything that the prosecution has unearthed during his case seems to have painted Cleotha to be all three of these things. At this time, we await the results of the trial. I wouldn't normally cover a case that was not yet closed. However, because of the presence of DNA and the fact the event was captured on CCTV, the case appears to be open and shut. All we are now really waiting for is the sentence. It is widely believed that Cleotha will never see freedom again, and possible that his life will be taken by the state. Please do let me know your thoughts on this case down in the comments. And let me know what you think could be done to avoid something like this happening again in the future. And if you appreciate what I'm doing here, please do hit that like button. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.